Hello, everybody. Welcome back. 100 Proof Whitetails. Happy 2025. Happy New Year. Episode number 54. And we got 54. 54 of the 100 Proof. We had a few before that. The 100 and the contraband. Yeah, the contraband numbers don't count. That's a lot of people. They said they couldn't do anything. But whatever. Whatever. 100 Proof is what we are now. So that's what we're rolling with. Obviously, into our. How many years have we been doing this? Three? Four? Four? I think it's four. With the contraband years included. Yeah, I've been doing this for 4 years. I think we've been doing it 4 years. I think we're rolling into our third. Okay. Yep. So, let me check our audios. Check, check. Doesn't sound very good. No, it doesn't. Don't sound good at all. Damn it, Rebecca. What do we do? Alright, let's see. Cord all messed up again? I don't freaking know. I hope not. I hope not. Hello, hello. Check, check. How do we sound?
How do we sound? Can you hear me?
Of course, my sister. We do. Sound like we're in a tin can again. I don't know. New year wouldn't be a new year without new issues.
What'd she say? Rebecca just chimed in.
And she said she liked it.
Oh.
You liked
You liked it? You like the crap, or you just like?
And she liked it.
You like it? You like the crap, or you just like? You like the crap?
All right, I think we got to figure it out. I just got to take the noise cancellation off or whatever the hell it was. So let us know in the comments how the audio's sounding now. Sorry, guys, for that little bit of confusion with it, but it's 2025. It's the end of deer season officially. About what, 2 hours ago,
Yeah,
give or take. So,
time is it?
Bo Hunt says Happy New Year sounds good.
All right, Bo can hear us. Happy New Year, Bo.
Bo, happy
Glad
New
to
Year.
see you survived.
Yeah. I wonder if he was out holiday hunting it tonight.
Maybe. I thought about it.
Yeah, I did too. I was about set though for deer we had in the freezer. We cut up that doe that I shot last week, and a whole bunch of stuff. So was able to knock out my Grand Slam this year with weapons:
Mm-hmm.
bow, rifle, pistol, muzzle loader. So
Got one with
hit one for the cycle.
all four.
Yep.
I'm going on probably 3 years of killing one with a bow, killing one with a rifle, and killing one with the muzzle loader.
Mm-hmm.
I don't pistol hunt.
Bo says.
And Bo, he did get one with a crossbow.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot he knocked one down first week in November, second week in November with the crossbow.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Andy Hall.
Happy New Year, Andy.
Happy New Year. Oh, speaking of that, we have.
When's that runnings thing?
I was gonna say the date got announced for the runnings thing. I got it on my phone right here. March 15th. Put a little banner up at the bottom of the screen. Actually,
When's the Syracuse thing? You guys doing that again, Andy?
I don't know about that. Andy would have to answer that one.
So he said they did more runnings than they did at the Syracuse thing.
Yeah.
And runnings is way easier.
Oh, 100%.
He says it was the Syracuse outdoor show was dead.
Yeah, that's a dying show. It has been for years. Runnings. Big buck.
Northeast. Come on, Ben.
There we go. We'll put it up on there for the banner. Keep it rolling.
Andy says not doing Syracuse show.
I don't blame you.
Kill it. I debated. I was talking to Mike the other day, and I think next year we're gonna do a scoring day up at Mike's too. At least me, anyway. Anybody that's coming in to drop heads off or whatever.
Yeah, see
So,
if
yeah.
Andy want to tag along or find somebody.
Yeah, to kind of split the scoring up. But also on the topic of scoring deer, if you shot one opening weekend after Christmas, you were good. You were going to be past your 60-day drying, the 60-day drying period here in another week or so. So feel free to reach out to your local scorer.
Andy, you got to score my deer.
Yep, I'm not allowed to. I'm biased.
No, Andy always scores it better than you.
He's been doing it longer. But yeah, so we got.
He always asks me before he goes, "What's Ben scored at?"
Yeah.
I think he just gives me a call.
Yeah, I think so. So yeah, March 15th, we'll be doing the show at Runnings. Oh, I spelled that wrong. Runnings.
Runungs. Runungs? Like
Runnings.
nunchucks?
Runnings.
Whatever, they got the idea.
Yeah. We'll just keep that.
We're
And now we're
frozen now.
froze. I
Why
see
we
that.
froze?
I don't know.
Fine.
My wife's probably playing around on the TV upstairs, screwing everything up. I was gonna be like, you froze.
Oh my god.
That's it. New year, everything just
2025 is not starting out very good.
yep. Uh,
There we go. Hey, I think it was when you were commenting.
that could have been.
I think we're good now.
All right. I hope we didn't glitch too bad for everybody.
Yeah.
So
I'm back.
shut that
Soon
down and
enough.
make it so we're just on this. Keep it simple. Bo says you guys need to do the show in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
You talking to us, Northeast Big Buck Club, or both of us? I don't know. I was gonna ask Andy if we could probably tag along for the runnings event again.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we'll be trying to do a live show there and actually do it this time.
Actually, do a live show instead of just set up.
Yeah, like go there the night before. I mean, Nora was just born last year, so that's what put a little.
Wow. And I had a 1-year-old.
And you had a 1-year-old, so yeah. But that's we'll probably be at the runnings in some capacity, whether we'll do a live show or not. We'll probably set up the night before. That way we know where we're at with stuff. Andy says Harrisburg's too long and too expensive. It's fair.
A
Totally
lot of
fair.
these guys do it on charity.
Oh, it's all volunteer, dude.
It's all volunteer.
It's volunteer scoring.
All
So-
volunteer scoring, volunteering their time. So if they went to the Harrisburg, they would probably have to use vacation.
Yep.
From their jobs that actually matter.
Yep. The ones that pay the bills with it.
The ones that pay the bills.
You got-
They'd probably rather save them for hunting.
Yeah. So, but yeah.
But
So,
Bo, bring all your deer down, and so we can get them entered into the Northeast Big Buck Club.
yep. Yeah, I don't think.
So how many deer did Andy and what was the other guy that was here?
Dennis.
Dennis.
Yep.
What they did? What they scored mine? I think here they scored. How many years?
A
6?
handful, 6, 8,
7?
whatever. Yeah. I forget what
Yeah.
it was. But yeah, I don't think Donald's gonna make it. Kind of rough scored him. He's not gonna make it. With that gnarly side, and then Six Pack will make it with the ball, no problem. But yep. Bo says largest outdoor show in the Northeast. You guys both should go. They have a ton of booths. Just go down and visit for a day and a half. It's worth it. Yeah, I've been down to Harrisburg before for a couple times.
I've never been. I'd be
It's a trip. I mean, from us,
Interesting
it's
going.
probably 3.5 hours. I would think 4, maybe 4. Maybe if Huntworth wants you to come work the booth.
They should. They should reach out to me.
think that would be a fair trade.
I'll wear my whole get up.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, we know that Exodus won't be there anymore. We announced that, what, 2 shows ago?
Mm-hmm.
And said that Exodus was shutting doors, so they'll be gone. Obviously not doing it down there, whether Jake or Chad or any of them guys will be down there. Well, they've announced it. That's at the end of the month.
Oh, the Harrisburg.
Mm-hmm.
So, Bo,
Well,
Andy,
end of the month. It's February 1st through the 9th.
how'd your guys' seasons end?
So, and anybody else tuning in?
And anybody else?
Yeah.
You guys have a good end to it, or slow?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean it was decent at the end. I saw a decent buck the night I shot my doe. Um, over on that property. So, I'm hoping we had a few that obviously made it through the rifle season, which if you make it through the rifle season, you got a pretty good shot at making it to the
I
next set.
saw it would have been the Saturday after Christmas. I saw $8 on my lease, and
Solid.
two doe.
Solid. Solid. Andy says just the one for him. Yeah, all good, man.
It was a nice one.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a solid buck. We played that last show, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. We
Put that one up last go round
we padded Andy up
with
on the last
the
one
contraband
with his contraband hoodie and his
underneath. You can see
and
the
his
white
200
the white
his
strings.
200 incher.
White strings.
We put on it.
Mo said if you know anybody that has Exodus cell cams, I just traded 3 of mine in to Tacticam. Tacticam is doing a buyback. It's a pretty sweet deal. Yeah, I know that they've been doing camera buybacks and stuff like that through some of these other companies to get you into their products. Basically, they're giving you a credit voucher for one of the other companies' cameras, like a coupon, basically, so that you can put it toward your camera to come on board with them. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I never ran any of their cell cameras. I know we talked about this a little bit last episode when we said that they were going out of business, but I never ran the cell cams. I just got regular standard ones, and I've always liked them. They've always performed really well and lasted for me. So, but yeah.
We're finally gonna dive into it.
Is this the episode? We're finally gonna get to it after teasing it for 3 weeks.
Well, holidays and everything. Holidays screw everything up, man.
Yep.
I didn't even know it was Wednesday. I was working on my barn, and my parents, I asked them if they could watch Owen because Liza had to work this morning, and so I drop Owen off, and my parents message us around like I don't know, 1:30, said he fell asleep. I'm like, oh, okay. And so Liza said, well, if he wakes up, I said, we might as well just go over and have dinner with my parents. I'll message them. She goes, well, it's Wednesday. Aren't you doing the podcast? I'm like, oh, yeah, it's Wednesday. It's like my days are all messed up.
Forget what day it is.
But anyways, the holidays messed everything up. And I know Bo wanted to continue this conversation, was the buck betting.
Mm-hmm.
How to set up for it. What are our thoughts on it? What are your guys' thoughts on it?
Sure.
And I've been really wanting to do this one.
I've been yeah.
It just seems like every time we get back on afterwards, a whole nother topic comes up and it rolls in. All of a sudden, we're an hour into it.
Yep, exactly. We want to be conscious of everybody's time, that's watching and hanging out, on a Wednesday afternoon. I know some folks weren't really working today. I know it was kind of a holiday or whatever, but some folks got to work tomorrow. So we'll dive into the buck betting thing, or holding bucks, I guess. And I've seen a lot of questions online, Facebook and other stuff like that in different groups that are just, what's the best food to plant for deer? And I think that's a good place to start the conversation is your food source. Is if you could pick, if somebody says, what do I plant? What's the best thing to plant for deer? What do you think, Nate? We'll start the conversation there and we'll roll that into like buck bedding and buck cover.
I mean, for year-round attraction,
Mm-hmm.
like from the start to the end, I gotta say beans.
Beans. There goes beans.
Beans, if you wanna, after they brown out, if you wanna mix in some of those, like some of the 100 proof in
Mhm.
there to give it a little green to get you from that transition period in between that transition period. I like that. Um, Honestly, I see deer and beans all year, all season, whether they're standing
Yep.
or not.
Yeah. I'm gonna go just a little bit. My answer to that is always unpressured. Doesn't matter. I honestly don't care what you plant. If it's an unpressured food source, that's gonna be king. Doesn't matter if it's a hayfield. I kind of trick questioned you a little bit on that
Yeah,
one.
you trick questioned me. You asked me what food,
Yep. What would you plant?
what would I plant? Well,
Yep.
that's what I would plant, and then obviously keeping the pressure off.
Yep. Yep.
Especially the bedding areas, which I experienced, well, learned. It was a learning curve
Mm-hmm.
this year, and we actually timed it out
Yeah. From
until
infiltration
we actually
until
had real data showing that buck was back.
mm-hmm.
It was about 3 weeks after we went into a bedding area looking for a deer, and we searched it for probably 2 hours, walking through that
And
bedding
then
area.
another day.
And then the next morning for another hour. It was about 3 weeks before them deer really got settled back in there.
Yep. 100%.
And that's about a quarter of your deer season.
Yep.
So
Yep.
be cautious about when you're doing your drives and everything. When you walk through one,
Yeah, I saw that as a comment on, forget what it was. It might have even been a YouTube video or something. I forget where I saw it over the last couple days. Um, was somebody saying, "Don't be afraid to go in there and bust up those late season, bedding areas and food source spots." And it's like, dude, if you're getting in there and shed hunting early or breaking up bedding and stuff like that, you're just screwing yourself over for this time of the year. I guess example, we'll go right into that. What was successful, for me, this past week or whatever, was when I went out for the holiday hunt. What was it? Maybe I forget what day I shot that doe.
that's definitely unpressured ground.
That was unpressured. I mean,
I'd say number one is unpressured.
yeah, it's got to be unpressured. I mean, if you want to hold, especially bucks, does can handle a lot of pressure, but um, even the does. I mean, you were at least a week out before does started coming back into that bedding area
Mm-hmm.
after we went up in there tracking. So definitely unpressured is the top of the line. That's got to happen. And then if you can't do that, then you got to not plant it. Um, as a food source. But somebody was saying to get in there in the late season and bump them out if you don't know where the deer are. It's like, well, if you got snow on the ground, like when I scouted that food source before I went in there that night, I outlaw planted, which is broadcasting turnips into soybeans, kind of like what Nate said. Then the farmer took his soybeans, and then they had a nice layer of green underneath. Actually, I'll show a nice. Check this picture out that I. No, not that one. I'll find the right picture. There, look at that.
That's the outlaw.
That's the outlaw plot. I shot that doe out of that stand right there. So I'm gonna put let me get a share screen going. Working on it, guys. Window, boom. Share it. All right, and the mic's over on that one, so we
That
should
was
be good.
beans.
That was an
Is that
agriculture.
bottom field to the west that we walked across?
The really long one.
We were following.
Yeah, we were following that buck I shot 2 years ago.
Yeah.
We're following D. Yeah, we went in right about there
Mm-hmm.
to go into. Oh, sorry. Right about in here. Sorry for everybody watching on the screen. Right about in here to go track D. I was actually set up in this maple tree right here. When I shot a doe about right there the other night. But this is broadcasted. There we go. Zoom it right in. 100 proof, broadcast into soybeans. Farmer took it off, and then boom, you got a nice green lush carpet underneath. Again, checking with your farmer and stuff like that. Make sure he's not going to disc it up or something.
Which I definitely had success with that outlaw plot.
Dude, I think these outlaw plots are killer.
And those, it keeps something there, I guess, year round.
And the really cool thing that you can't really see from where this camera was, the deer actually didn't trigger the camera because they were out feeding in the middle of it. So I think I wasn't even getting a total good inventory. Like this was more along the edge. There used to be a scrape branch hanging down here that's now on the ground behind this deer. Snapped off. That's why that camera was there. But with this plot, when you make it narrow and long like that, the benefit to that is they'll feed down. These deer fed down this turnip line in a single file line. So especially with like a long field or a big wide open field, once you get them out into it, and if you can get them feeding down it, I think that's absolutely dynamite and killer for any time of the year, but most
And
of
it
the
was
time, season, late season.
it was definitely set up for late season.
Yeah, and you can see I did plant a little bit down here along the base of the hill. This doesn't get as much sun. Too. This was all planted at the same time. Middle of the field obviously does the best sunlight for this long narrow one. But you see I got a little bit of a haze right here around the stand. You probably can see the ladder stand. There it is. Ladder stand. Right there. Yeah, because then the trail goes on right here behind you. So, and again, going back to strategy and late season, like I said, that guy on that YouTube video was saying go in and, don't be afraid to bump these bedding area out. The deer will be back in there. That might be the case, but when you're working on like a 1 to 2 week turnaround, similar to like you were saying, if you're getting down toward the end of season or right in the middle of season, pushing them out to neighbors, you can't afford to do that. So instead of coming in from the west, what I usually do with this stand, which comes in and then comes in across the creek, I came from the east and I came down this big hill and I came across this field. I actually came out probably right about here. And so they couldn't see me in this southern bedding area. I looped to the north in the field to be able to block my view, or the deer view of me until I could get down along this edge, slipped in the edge of the brush about where that trail was, and then climbed up in the stand from behind the brush and shit. So trying to be super as stealthy as I could be, because I didn't want to screw up um, any of that bedding or any of that movement, dude. Like you gotta be so much like a predator when you're hunting deer on food sources. Because when you screw it up, dude, like you said, 3 weeks,
Yeah.
2 to 3 weeks before you're putting deer back in that spot. Especially if you're going through like the main bedding, that goes without saying.
So we talked about food.
Mm-hmm.
Food's number one when leading into the buck bedding conversation.
Yep.
Food's number one. You got to have a food source of some sort, something to attract just deer.
Yep. And for that, food value, and that doesn't have to be an ag field. That could be a clear cut. That could be a timbered area if you're in bigger woods, property. It could be an area where you had a microburst come through and dropped a bunch of trees and you got a lot of sunlight hitting the ground. Could be just a hayfield or like a alfalfa clover field or something like that the farmer cuts. We see a lot of that in the southern tier. That's your evening food source, coming out of the bedding.
Mm-hmm.
So, but keeping that food source unpressured and keeping that bedding unpressured, it all comes back to, like we say, access and woodsmanship, dude. Whether it is, if you throw that out the window, like you're just setting yourself up for failure or limited success. Shouldn't say failure. I mean, because anybody can get lucky, it could happen. But if you want to be consistent, dude, you gotta have that access, bulletproof. and keep that pressure to a minimum and just, have that good woodsmanship with it. And a lot of that starts, right now, getting out there and
Yeah, season's over. Time to start.
yeah. So, not
Season
saying
work.
not saying you need to just go into your best bedding areas and stuff like that. I mean, if you know that they're bedding in there, there's no reason to jump in there, and just dive into it right off, unless you're, shed hunting later in the fall, or sorry, later in the winter going into spring. There's no reason to dive in those bedding areas. That's the only time I really go into my bedding areas is like early spring, maybe summer if I'm still doing cutting in there or something like that. Um, but other than that, dude, I try to stay out of it. And that,
Yeah, now through March be the time to cut.
if you're cutting, 100%. I want to get some stiff ground so I can get out there and start cutting and stuff.
Andy says, well, Bo says,
Bo said, "Get me a cappuccino." I know I've yawned
Let's-
2 or 3 times already.
yeah,
It's I have a 10-month-old that just is cutting teeth, so hasn't been the best sleep the last few nights. So
so Andy wants to know about smoking clothes.
smoking clothes, I've heard different takes on that. I've never really smoked them. You know, I've always washed them and then uh, ozone crushed them. I guess, but before that, it was just spray down with whatever cover scent you were using, whether it was Hunter Specialties or what was it, the Acorn scent and the Fresh Earth scent. I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to think. Those sprays, that was before the days of the scent killer. That was the UV killer. Was the original like laundry detergent for your clothes back then. There wasn't as much for the scent free stuff, but
Andy
um,
says, smell like a wood stove.
yeah, I mean, um,
I think it depends on your area. I mean, if you got a lot of, I guess, if you got a lot of wood stoves burning around where you're hunting, I guess it wouldn't hurt,
mhm,
but I wouldn't overdo it.
sure, sure.
I mean, I maybe a hint of smoke on your clothes would be all right, but I wouldn't like put your clothes in a smokehouse.
Yeah, yeah, or like yeah,
You go out there and smell like the wood stoves right there in the middle of the woods. I don't think that's
sure,
gonna work out.
sure. My opinion on that would be you're still hunting the wind. I mean, it doesn't matter what you're doing to your clothes. Even when we're talking about doing all the scent, you know, eliminating washes and the ozone crushing and stuff like that, like it's still playing the wind and hunting. Like that whole approach for that deer, that we talked about, not that one. The whole approach for this deer here that we talked about was the whole approach for this deer was completely like wind blowing onto the neighbors, like coming down this coming down this top side of it. um the wind was blowing like south, like straight south. So I was basically abandoning this bedding area that I was going to be kind of blowing it into, because I kind of hedged my bet that they would be in the southern bedding area, with it being a little cooler, time of the year and stuff like that. They're not really in this heavy cover one. There was a couple deer in this bedding area that I bumped out going in there, but majority of the deer were in the southern bedding area. Um, and then, that was all access. I don't think it would have mattered what I smelled like. I mean, because I really haven't been scent crushing my clothes since October.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I get lazy, dude. Honestly, once it gets to be gun season, I get pretty lazy because my hunting strategy, I just use, the good strategy instead for that. So, um, that's my take on smoking. If you think it's the good fit, I definitely like rubber boots over leather boots. I think leather holds a lot of scent. And I think that's more important than what you smell
Well,
like on stand.
that's what's touching the ground.
Yeah, I think that's more important, is making sure that you're not brushing brush and a bunch of other stuff with your clothes, leaving that human scent behind, as big of a footprint of it. Because I smell that for days after the fact.
I mean, something I found that's worked is actually using those like calming sense on the.
You did the Evercom. I remember you saying that you ran Evercom.
Evercom, I always do just a little swipe on the heel before I walk in, and it seems that they cross my path, cross my tracks, and doesn't seem to really bother them.
James tuning in says Essence of Fall was good years ago. I think that used to smell similar to the Hunter's Specialties acorn and stuff like that. It had like kind of a leafy, dry kind of smell.
Yeah.
I think cover scents are, they're nice, especially if, and we say that too, is whatever you think is going to be successful for you, having that mentality of it. I think that's a huge part of it. We talk about it with your arrow setup and your broadhead, but if that's your track is to use Essence of the Fall or smoke your clothes or put them in an ozone machine or whatever your thing is, if that's where you think you're going to have success with it, having that confidence is going to help you be successful.
Yeah.
Rather than second guessing yourself and trying to just throw everything but the kitchen sink at it. I think is where you can be successful with it. But so I guess going into how this kind of ties into that, the buck betting or how to set that up or whatever, and we'll kind of get a little deep diver into it with the buck betting. It depends on like seasonal, obviously too. So
that's the only season we really care about is the only season you should care about. Who cares if your neighbor's getting pictures of the deer
all summer?
All summer. Who gives a shit?
I don't.
You just want them on your property during season.
Yeah, especially with especially with the smaller acreage sizes, that most of us hunt and stuff like that. And I want to say small as anything under like 300 acres. I think would be small. In the grand scheme of things, and obviously much smaller for some of our pieces.
So thinking about the time of year you want him there.
Yep.
I mean, yeah,
is fall, so he's gonna want
deer all over the place.
He's gonna want safety and security is number one. If you don't have safety and security, it don't matter what your bedding area.
Which that kind of ties into heavy cover, thick cover.
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk about briars or those buckthorn patches?
You can get away with more sin being a thicker patch, absolutely.
Or even what the hell you call them with the red
dogwood?
No,
sumac.
Yep,
those sumac pockets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think throwing a sumac pocket out in middle of a field or whatever, they grow fast. You'd have a bedding area built in a couple of years.
Oh yeah, 100%. If you were looking at converting old field and stuff like that, absolutely. Yeah. So safety and security is number one. After that, you're going to be looking at how many deer you can fit, I guess, onto a spot when you're looking at where to, I guess, have bedding or whatever, and that goes right into where your access is. So if your access has to be from a certain side of the property because that's where the road is. You got to approach from the east side of the property, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to put your bedding on the east side of your property where you're going to have to access through all of it.
No.
So having that cover and where that cover is, you just have to relate that like I say, you find your stand locations and your access, and then you build your stand location and your improvements around those stand locations. It's no different than public land is you find the features, it's just a little bit reverted, but you find the features and then you figure out how to access into that to hunt it. And sometimes, like we say, backtracking the deer back into the bedding or backtracking them back toward food and figuring out where you can intercept them, where you can get in and out without screwing it up. That's the biggest thing. And then I guess for layout and design, you don't want the bedding right on top of food. Bucks typically aren't going to bed right on top of whatever that afternoon food source is.
No, the does will.
Yeah, the does are going to stack up on that. And mostly the only time that buck is going to be with them is rut or postseason or very early season summer. Mm-hmm. I would say that too. And the winter and the summer reasoning is because it's conservation of energy. is the only reason that they're using that. And there's no pressure on it. If pressure was on that for hunting season, it would be different as well. But for the winter and the summer bedding, being stacked in closer to does and closer to food, that's just a conservation energy. Takes more energy to stay cool, takes more energy to stay warm in the winter. So therefore they stack in tighter to food. Whereas, you know, that's where they're going to be is as tight to food probably as possible. Whereas during season, which is a majority of our hunting season in that October, November, most of December time frame, at least the first half, you're going to be looking at being that those bucks are going to be back in the first good non-pressured cover behind the does that are bedded stacked up to food. And those does are going to be typically within a couple hundred yards of food, and then the bucks past that. Unless you get into heavy ag, and then that just shrinks those numbers down just because the cover's not there for it. You could get, like I had a 13 deer jammed in together. But I think twofold with that. One, it was conservation of energy for the bucks, and two, he was pushing around with another buck. He was pushing around doe fawns. I think that those doe fawns were coming into season pretty soon, so I think that's also why they were hanging so tight with that doe group too. Was I think there was a possible opportunity to breed a doe fawn. Got some good comments come in. Bo said, years ago, I used to be a total scent control freak, but I moved away from that mindset. Now I focus on making sure my setup allows me to move in and out as undetected as possible. One thing I never skip, though, is dropping milkweed to constantly check the wind. It's been a game changer for staying on top of conditions. Yeah, we say that all the time is milkweed or, whatever you're using as a wind indicator, powders or whatever. You can really learn a lot from a stand where you think that it's going to be good with, let's just say, a west wind, and you get into it, and then you realize that actually the way the wind channels or circles down through there, even when it's west, it's blowing southeast or whatever. Sometimes you got to actually almost have it blowing the wrong way for a thermal to pick it up and pull it out during a different time of the year. So learning your spots is huge, and that milkweed is a great piece for that. And knowing what conditions the weather is, when making those decisions to go into those spots. So definitely, I think the scent control is huge for keeping it off your clothes and off the brush when you're going in and out. But I think the scent control while you're on stand doesn't really matter so much, as long as it's the right spot and with the good access. Brad Sisson commenting in says late season and bed based hunting is pretty much the same as early season mindset. A lot of scouting and glassing with sits based on intel. For muzzleloader / holiday season for me, my hunting partner each fill their remaining buck tags, one each with 4 hunts. 2 hunts each for a specific buck. It's calculated aggressive moves. Yeah, I 100% agree that if you still got survivors out there, when I shot that doe the other night, there was a solid buck, was hanging around with him. He was maybe 115, 120 inches. That was hanging with that doe group with another small buck. So if you got a buck that's alive and if it's an unpressured food source, absolutely. It can be undeniably deadly, in the late season. Especially if we get some weather mixed in with it. This is a good point too by Brad. Tighter to food bedding means higher likelihood of them visiting it at times the hunters undervalue. Partner's buck was shot that evening after we watched him in the field at 11 a.m. that morning, and he was bedding 20 yards off of it. Yeah, if they're conserving energy and the weather's crap, I mean, they're not going to bed far from it if they don't, especially if they think that they got to conserve all that energy, 100%. And I've noticed that too in the really, really cold snap when we got 0 and stuff like that. I was looking at cameras. We had a lot of midday feeding because that was the warmest part of the day. And then they would go back and lay on their bellies, get up like right after dark, but then some overnight, and then but that early morning, like last feed before bed, I think they were doing that more back in the bedding with the browse and staying on their belly, staying warm, trying to conserve energy.
Mhm.
I was seeing a ton of that too, like Brad said, that midday movement when it's
But
so
I mean,
crappy like that.
it sounds like if Brad though, if he's got a buck coming out at 11 a.m. and
That's unpressured.
feeding, that's very unpressured, or that deer had something wrong with it.
That's possible too.
It needed that extra nourishment
Hmm. Yeah,
to get out there. It needed that more protein, or it needed that more iron, or whatever.
yeah, building back them
Trying to
reserves.
build back,
Mhm.
or trying to, like that buck I shot late gun season. There's no reason really for that deer. I mean, it was unpressured, and I don't pressure
Mhm.
that property a whole lot. My access is solid on it. But the only reason I think that deer came out at 3 o'clock was because it had an injury,
Oh, he was.
and it was trying to build itself back, just keep itself alive as long as it possibly could.
Yep.
And there's also that part to play into it, but definitely the 11 a.m. thing, I would definitely say is
Well, and they do feed midday.
unpressured.
Yeah, that's got to be unpressured. But they do feed midday, and if it's that crud weather too, and it's the best time to feed to conserve energy, absolutely. Um, but yeah, that's that's huge, dude. It's unpressured, food and the bedding for bucks. That's the name of the game. Um, Bo said, I don't know if I missed it or not, but did Nate mention anything about compartmentalizing the bedding between does and bucks? So typically, you're not going to have bucks bedding right on top of food unless it's later early season. Um, so for compartmentalizing, you're really just stacking cover back behind, that.
What, Bo? I guess my mindset is, if you're talking about doe bedding, you're talking about the switchgrass, you're talking about that first 60 to 100 yards of thicker cover, um, up to the food source, or I say the buck bedding, I would say would be a little farther back. It would be, if you have the woods depth, I would say it's behind that, and it's not really the same. Um, I would say, if I was to build buck bedding, I guess behind it, I would do spots. I would think of
Living
high
room size.
points, um, different, um, just so he could like be alone, maybe with another buck, and just like cut these little pockets, I guess you want to say, where doe bedding is like just a blanket of bedding, I
Yeah,
feel like.
a blanket
And
band.
I'm not saying bucks won't bed in there with them, because I guess they will from time to time. But I think for the most part, I guess think about it as Thanksgiving. Let's put it this way. Let's think about it as Thanksgiving. What's your mom? What's your wife? What's your sister doing on Thanksgiving? What's dad doing? What's grandpa doing? What room in the house is everybody stacked in? Where are the
Mhm.
guys? Where are the girls? Where are the kids?
Yep.
Figure it out. It's really not much different. That's kind of, in layman's terms, the best way I could describe it. You know, the moms are going to be
In the
closer to the
kitchen,
food, in the kitchen, preparing it, getting, whatever. What's dad doing
watching football.
before and after he eats?
Watching
He's
football.
sitting in his recliner. When he gets up, let's say the kitchen is your food source. The kitchen is your food plot. When's dad get up off of his recliner, or grandpa, and go into the kitchen? When he needs a snack, when it's time to eat, when he needs a beer. It's like, it's kind of the same idea. He's not spending majority of his time in those locations. He wants to be where he's comfortable. He wants to be where his mind is at, let's say, peace. So mom, grandma, everybody's in there before and after dinner.
Hmm.
During dinner, I almost feel like they're in there. They're preparing the meal. They're
cleaning up after.
They're cleaning up after. They're there a lot more than when grandpa and dad or your uncle go in there here and they're out. They go in here and they're out. And they're all in separate rooms. In the dining room, it's kind of where everyone kind of comes together. Every once in a while. I guess is a simple analogy I can kind of put it as to where my mindset works on how bucks and does bed together and work together, because I relate it, because I don't really think I think all animals are pretty
social.
I mean,
There's a social.
people don't think about it, but I mean, we are animals.
Yeah, it's a social dynamic, 100%. And they don't want to, unless it's high stress period and stuff like that, or very low stress period. They don't want to deal with other deer and stuff like that. As a rule, those included. If it's a family group or late season high stress period, or very early season low stress period, almost kind of opposite ends of the spectrum with it, you don't have that competition as much between doe groups. Whereas during that prime time fall season, when food sources start to dwindle, pressure starts to get put on by neighbors or whatever else, that kind of forces them into these little pockets, and they get super protective of these pockets because that's where they feel safe and good. Now, like Nate said,
so that pocket that buck's hanging out in, that's his recliner.
Yep.
You got to make these little recliners for these bucks, these little safe spots that they can go. But you got to understand what a buck wants. You got to understand that he wants to be able to see, he wants to be able to smell, and he wants to be able to eat. What's dad want to do in his recliner? Maybe he smokes a pipe in his recliner. He wants his tobacco near him.
Yep.
Maybe he gets up every once in a while, goes grabs a beer, gets a snack. That's for the most part, he just wants to be comfortable and relaxed.
So Bo says to draw me a picture of what you guys think a perfect buck bedding, not betting. I don't think they're throwing out bets out there, but the bedding area would look like. The perfect one is where he can't
whiteboard.
Is where he can't hear you, see you, or smell you. There's the perfect one, or any of the girls right off, unless it's time to get lucky. But yeah, that's. I mean, if you're looking,
and I think that varies with the age of bucks. You get your 2.5, you get your 3.5. They're going to be going out to the bars with the ladies. They're going to be visiting that food source a little more. They're going to be going out there and hanging out with them a little more than dad or grandpa. Dad and grandpa don't go to the bars anymore. Maybe some do, but I don't think most of us do anymore. They sit at home and they have their drink or smoke whatever. I don't know. So Bo, do you want me to draw one up the way I'm explaining it, or do you want Ben to draw it up? I mean, I can draw it up. Here, I'll just hold it. I don't care. You sit in your chair.
hey, story time, guys.
Story time.
Yeah. So all you're doing with food is we got north. Oh wow! Of course I grabbed a crappy marker.
Another expo over there.
No.
You gave them all to Owen.
Yeah, I know I did. I got some over the board. The suicide board.
We weren't prepared to do
board.
diagrams.
What's the comment?
Bo said both. All right, Ben, you do yours first. I'll do mine. Or actually, let me do mine because it's on my brain. Just sent you. David Todd says, just sent you a text of the turnip from your seed mixture. They are the size of softballs. The food plot turned out great this year. Thank you for all your advice.
Love it, Dave. Hopefully you're enjoying that happy lobby. Sipping on that.
It sounds like Brad's kind of, educated guesses. Brad says late season, I believe mature bucks will have a few bedding areas around the food sources due to rebuilding. Usually, you can start to make educated guesses based on glassing and trail cams. One of our food sources has bedding on the west, north, and northeast. Based on timing of appearances, you see them, you can backtrack to that bedding area and make your moves on. Yeah, Brad, I would. Sounds like Brad's got it going on.
Brad runs a lot of trail cameras. You think I run a lot of trail cameras? Brad runs
It sounds like Brad's
way
got it
more than I
going.
am. Here you go. Nate's gonna do a little storyboard action.
All right. So I guess to keep it simple, push that down a little bit or something. So we'll just make a rectangle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's say third of it is food. And I'm not left-handed, so bear with me.
He went to mid leagues too, so
Yeah. Food. Okay. So, and then this first 100 or whatever, whether you want to make this buckthorn, whether you want to make this switchgrass, whether you want to make this, I don't know,
edge feathered cover. I mean, whatever you want.
cover. I would honestly, ideally, I would honestly not want a whole lot of big timber in here. I don't want open woods in here.
A lot of sunlight, browse.
No, yes, I want browse. I want sunlight. This here we will call doe bedding.
Doe
bedding. Okay. Now we get back in here. Let's say the thick stuff's kind of wearing off, and you're getting into little
more open timber.
little more open timber. Now this is where you create, in my mind, I could be wrong, but in my mind and what I've seen through hunting, you get behind here, and this is where you can create that buck bedding.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Okay. So you're going to have you're going to put grandpa's recliner here. Okay. Let's say this is all going uphill or whatever. However, it doesn't matter whether it's going uphill to the food source, down the hill to the food source, to the left to the food source, to the right to the food source. It doesn't matter. You have to figure out your access. Food source is number one. You got your doe bedding, your switchgrass, your goldenrod, your briars, your buckthorn, honeysuckle, whatever you got. Okay, I'm putting grandpa's recliner here so if this is north, south, no, that would be west and east. All right, so here we'll say we'll put another one here. We'll go on. We'll cut some trees down. We'll do some hinge cutting.
Drop one or two big trees.
Drop one or two big trees. Open up that canopy of that big hardwood so some sunlight can get on there and just make a little pocket.
Make some side cover and some security.
And it doesn't really have to be far off the doe bedding. You know, let's I don't know. Let's put another one right here.
And again, looking at what you got for trees and not cutting your good value timber trees, and making it strategic based on your stand locations,
which is where someone of Ben's experience would benefit you. So if we're on, like, let's say a hillside, let's say the food's at the bottom,
goes uphill.
Mid-range, we're going uphill. All right. So if we're on a hill, I'm sure there's probably a bench shelf or two in here. I would honestly try and put that bedding on a bench shelf if we're on a hill, because that's where he's going to want to lay. He's not going to want to lay on a slope. He's going to want to lay somewhere where he's comfortable.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So put that little pocket on a bench shelf.
Mm-hmm.
And you can almost, by doing this, you can almost kind of figure out where he's going to bed, or where, depending on the wind.
Mm-hmm.
If you're getting a west wind, he's probably going to want to bed here because he can smell everything behind him.
If he can look downhill.
And he can look down the hill, and he can look to the east. If he's bedding over here, you probably got an east wind or a southeast or a northeast. If he's bedding here, it could be, he's got a north wind. He can still see down the hill, but he can smell anything coming behind him.
Mm-hmm.
So by creating these little pockets and these little, you got I don't know, it's hard to explain, but you got to get up on your property, whether it's downhill, uphill, however it goes. And that's kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
And definitely unpressured food.
Yep.
But I would definitely keep your thick stuff, in my opinion. If it was ideal, let's say your buckthorn and all your little trees are here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll do the little buckthorn bush here, honeysuckle here, all that thick stuff, briars. And this, what I would like, if I could build the perfect one, in my opinion, is this is all switchgrass. This is all goldenrod,
Screening, whatever.
blah blah blah, which they'll bed in it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got whatever in here.
Yeah.
So that is, I guess, how I'm explaining. You got your living room,
Yeah.
you got your dining room, and you got your kitchen.
I like it. Now, of course, I did grab one that's like, I draw too much on that serial killer board, lose too much crap. So I love like the illustration with that shows the depth kind of side of it, where your does are going to take this, your does young bucks too. I mean, you're going to have your year and a half olds bedding in
And then
this too.
if this is a valley, put the food at the bottom.
Yep.
And then do the same exact thing mirrored over here.
Yep. Or inverted, where the deer bed down low and the food's up high.
Which you could also do that.
You could look at it flip flop too.
Depending on access.
Yeah. So the only thing that I would do differently, and it depends, like this is very stereotypical agriculture. You got food, it's a big square, that's what it is. When you start getting into designing in your food plots, I want that food plot, of course it's going to die on me. I want that food plot to be, let's just say,
I think they can see it.
Yeah, it can. Sure. Look at that. Look at Nate's food, does, bucks.
You have to screenshot it and
Yeah, we could always play with it.
zoom in.
So, whereas if you were designing that food bedding area, mine's right on the glare though. So if you have like a long, there we go, turn it like
There you go.
that, ish. So if this is all your food here, is this little snake looking thing. What this lets you do is then you can stack does, if your access is from this side, you can stack does with that cutting and that bedding here. You can stack them down here, and you could cut those pockets in this way and let them feed linearly through that plot. And then you just take Nate's thing, like you said, simple, put those buck beddings back off, satelliting those, and that's the illustration of it too. If you're designing that spot from scratch,
which I hunt. I don't own my own. I own 1 acre.
Yep. So Nate's is
I hunt
or lease property. It's very much the same as that.
Ag.
Yep.
I hunt ag. Ben
can design.
His family owns almost 300 acres
between the couple properties. Yeah.
So he's able to go in and design it.
Yep. So, and the same thing, only different. If this is your, and we'll just use Nate's good square example here. If this is your big goldenrod field that you want to put a food plot in, everybody wants to plant more. I would rather plant less, leave some of that goldenrod so you could almost set those does in that food, meaning your open field, you could have some of them in that goldenrod and then have your trail or irregular shaped food plot going past your stand locations to make that, if you were able to manipulate that field for an example.
What you would do, what I guess the way I understand what Ben's saying is, so you take his food plot and you put little feeders.
Yep. Sure. Absolutely.
Put a couple feeders for multiple wins in there.
And we say feeders, we mean like feeding food plot trails.
Feeding food plot trails.
Not like a spinner feeder.
10, 15 feet wide.
Yep. Long, you let them feed down it.
Then let's say in the center, you just cut out this.
Yep. Potato, whatever.
Potato shape.
Wagon wheel.
Shape. Hell, fucking only do 2 of them. Put a feeder in the middle.
Yep.
You know, however you want to do it. Then you can have your stands, and all of this around it.
Just let it grow up.
Just let it grow into that switchgrass and all
Goldenrod
of that, and you're just creating, you're expanding that cover to the food.
Yep, you're bringing that cover right down up against the food. Same thing when you're able to build these plots, you can stack that first dough bedding right up against that food with your cuttings.
So west wind, I'm accessing here to that stand. East wind, I'm accessing here. Really, a south wind could really bust this spot pretty bad. I don't know if I would really
or in this straight up and down rectangle. But if you got a south wind over here, you could get in where the dough bedding's here. You could almost get in and still hunt right in here on the tip of that edge of that food area where
So you could
blow it off into.
So if you have that option, you can set your food up for multiple.
Absolutely.
But you also have to keep in mind where you think them deer will be bedding.
Absolutely.
But, also keep in mind where your little satellite
Yep.
buck bedding.
And sometimes, like Nate said, if you're looking at getting in there, I might be coming up around the food and then back in here somewhere between where I think that satellite buck bedding is going to be going. And if he into that doe bedding, because there's going to be browse and food there, and he might not even hit that plot until after dark. So that might be the spot where you catch him, is going between his satellite spot and then where you put your doe bedding. Basically it could be a logging road that you got cut in between there. It could be a little bench on a hillside that he takes down into that doe bedding area that you set up on the edge of. Yeah. I mean, that's our second grade math skills.
It's not bad.
Or math and art skills rather.
And our markers that don't work.
Yeah.
You guys probably can't even see any of that.
That's even worse now. Look at that. That's even better. We just need a second camera angle.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Don't mind our horrible art skills. Sorry, guys.
So, Bo, I hope that kind of
illustrated it. There we go. It focused. Yeah, if we were going to do, I guess we could have done it with more in depth with a second camera angle and played it out that way. But, like we were saying, the biggest thing is being able to set it up. And if you're doing your stand locations on an ag field, or if you're doing them on a spot that you're building, you got to have your access and your stand first, and then you can build everything back out and around from that. It's like the foundation of the whole house is your stand location first. So, and then if, like we were saying with this spot in particular, so this spot works extremely well for east winds, and that's what we had that night I shot that doe. We had a southeast wind, and typically, we would not be coming in the way that I came down across the top of this hill and stuff like that and went around. Now, the neighbors have been pressuring it really, really hard up here to the north. So I figured that they wouldn't be using this medium value or low value bedding, on that piece of the side.
too close to the pressure.
Too close to pressure. So I figured they would be pushed deep
And
into
if you did push something out of there, it wasn't going to be substantial.
And it's also going to be pushing it back deeper into the property that I can hunt. I'm using basically the edge of the property to push the deer back into it if I push any of them. Whereas different application of the season, this is a ditch bed that goes up in here. If it's early season and not leaf drop and everything's flat, I walk up the ditch bed to get into this spot. I walk kind of wind to my back, but blowing out over another big ag field for this spot. Just for an example, not saying, and again, you can't hunt this side of the hill on the property. You also have to understand that there's just spots that you can't hunt with certain winds.
And honestly, you learn that through experience of actually hunting the property.
Absolutely.
I mean, you can make an educated guess, stealing Syson's words there.
Yep, absolutely.
But you can make an educated guess, but sometimes you get into a spot and you're like, my wind should be mint, and it's not.
Yep.
Like as you were walking into the stand, it's supposed to be a south wind.
Mhm.
You're walking into the stand, you get there,
And
it
it's
was
west.
south the whole way to that stand. You climb up in that stand, it's freaking west.
Dead
You're
west.
like, well, what? And then you got to start thinking about the topography and everything, and what's
Mhm.
making that wind do what it's doing. Why is it
Mhm.
swirling right here? Or sometimes you just got spots where the wind is just never right.
Sure. The other thing with this spot is when it's earlier season, there's a stand up in this top corner here, really close to the property line, that I hunt where they cut across the ag field and stuff like that. Typically, when it's corn, is when that stand is really good on that inside corner because they hug that because they can scent check all this bedding here and they can scent check all that moderate to medium bedding here. And they have all this security cover of corn basically in the middle of it. That's when that stand shines, or a late season with the rifle and not the muzzleloader when I can reach out there 300 yards if I feel like it.
Mm-hmm.
That's when that spot's really good. For north wind, you hunt the opposite end of the field, and west wind, nothing works for this field. You got to hunt the other side of the hill. So you're going to have that with certain spots too. Is it's
Due to property lines and bedding.
Due to property lines, bedding, and the way it lays out. This piece is one that I can't do a whole lot of extra management on. Like I can do a couple small food plots, but I can't do any big TSI projects or timber cuttings, or anything like that. So it's pretty limited. Luckily, this got logged a couple years ago for the ash. You can see it's pretty broke up. So they bed in this pretty heavy now. But because of how much ash came out of it, it's almost too thick. They don't use it that much. They almost just pass through it. They don't bed in it as much either. So you have that too, where if it's too thick or too cut over or too much of a big blank, thick cover, they're going to get pressured into that. But when the pressure is right here, they're just going to go to a more open, more favorable bedding source further away from pressure down here, south of this photo, instead of being right here, right stacked next to pressure. The pressure is just going to push them deeper. Even if this is better bedding, if the pressure is like right in here, they're going to push down away from the pressure.
You're a predator and you got to understand your prey.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So David Todd, I think, wants you to throw a picture of your turnip up.
Oh, sorry, Dave.
Yeah, we were in the middle of the bedding talk. I didn't want to skip over his.
Yeah.
I'll go down to Bo while you pull that up for Dave.
Sure.
Bo says, I appreciate you taking the time to show me how that lays out. It makes a lot more sense now. Yeah, Bo. I wish we had a better marker and a better camera, and so you could actually see in my. I'm actually pretty artistic. I should show you some of the stuff. I'm autistic and artistic. I should show these guys some of my drawings.
It's your beanie.
I got that.
It's your art major beanie that you got. That's what we need to call those, the art major beanies.
Did I send you the picture of the Sasquatch I drew carrying a deer out of the woods?
Mm-mm. Man, shit.
All right, show Dave's.
Yep.
I might have to. I'm in a bummer. I might have to send you my Sasquatch picture. Pretty sure I sent it to you.
Oh,
there's Ben's gate here.
Oh yeah, we could talk about that too. A little deer on deer action.
Deer on deer.
Deer on deer.
Oh boy.
All right. So we got a. Oh, breathe out.
You wanted a messenger?
Messenger
Is
is
that
the
easier?
easiest. All right, we froze up again. So bear with us if our audio and stuff cuts out. Too much. Trying to make this computer do too much, guys. It ain't a Mac. Sorry. But anyway, so we're going to get some pictures pulled up and see what we can come up with here. There we go. So we got a Facebook. Check that. Kill that. So
Look
you
at
can
that
see.
turnip.
Oh, not gonna let me zoom in on it. Come on now. Look at that. So that's a 7. What did Dave say? 7 mil 08 per scale. Good leafy greens. Good bulb production. And to get that good bulb production, we talk about it a lot. Make sure you get that proper spacing, to see that good, that good bulb growth out of it and that good leaf production. Because otherwise they'll stunt. They'll stunt out a lot of times if you overspray.
Stump.
They'll stun them. You send me another one, Nate?
I sent you my art.
Oh, sign it.
Look at that. I did. Look at NP right down there.
There it is.
You see that? That's Sasquatch carrying a deer out of the Adirondacks.
I like it. Oh, and then there's Nora eating the backstrap. I must have sent that too.
Yeah, you sent that one to me. Did you access my phone?
No, it's everything we've sent on Messenger.
Oh.
I'm not that fancy. See, there's Nate's bedding on the backside by the swamp.
See the swamp and the volcano in the back. That is the Jurassic buck.
The Jurassic Park.
You can see the pterodactyls in the background and the volcano.
Yep.
Not bad.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Either way.
All right.
I get bored sometimes.
Do we want to talk about the deer on deer or want to save that till the next one?
I mean, it would send everybody to bed with a smile on their face.
With a chuckle.
Yeah. We should probably talk about it.
So
is anybody interested in what a deer penis looks like?
we just lost all of our viewers.
Ben's got a.
So I run a lot of cameras, and
he's mainly looking for this.
Yeah, this has been decades in the making.
Decades
to get this shot.
Yeah.
Decades to get this shot.
This is a once in a lifetime shot right here.
Let me get it. So we.
No, yeah. Then you got to go back to the.
I'm gonna.
Then you got to go back to the other one.
All right. This is our once in a lifetime shot that we got right here. Stand by.
What are you doing?
This thing's it's been freaking super slow tonight, dude. I don't know what it is about it.
There it is. Holy God! Look at that thing. Wow.
It's like a baby's arm holding an apple.
I hope none of your wives are watching.
Yeah. Anyway, so the funny part about this whole predicament is there's the guy. I know we hit his face, but now we're just going to show his face for everybody. This is our guy. So as you can see here,
this is definitely a crossbow hunter's trail cam.
Yeah. So also want to point out the date on this is October 10th. These are correct dates, everything like that.
He was manstrating.
Right so now? That is the deer.
Oh wow! I think he's touching right there. It's touching.
It's
Oh my God.
If you're wondering, these are crossbow deer.
We're going viral. We're going viral.
So
the gay deer.
Yeah. So this deer is actually dead.
Neighbor killed him.
Neighbor killed that deer. Opening day of rifle season. This deer, sorry.
We are taking names for the buck mounting. Yeah. We need names.
Yeah. So
my best one was Pecker. I was gonna call him Pecker.
So I mean, obviously, teenage boy can't control himself even around another buck. So yeah, we got little buck on buck action there.
Interesting.
Yep. And again, it hasn't been.
The thing is like a pencil. That thing is sharp.
Yeah.
He just ran that thing through the 3rd grade pencil sharpener.
Yep. Those as crossbow guys would like to know. So yeah, if you just got this picture on your camera, you'd be like, "Oh, look at that little buck that's sniffing a doe's ass there." Not the case. Dave says that's awesome.
Caitlyn Jenner. Yes.
Bo says name that buck Caitlyn Jenner.
So yeah, I think we need to take names so Ben can name this deer.
Yep. So
we're gonna pick the best one. Caitlyn Jenner. You better write it down.
So I'm looking
for risk on him. That's a solid 2-year-old right there.
Yeah, that's a hell of a 2-year-old. Well, I mean, he's a year and a half old. I shoot him next year as a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. Yeah, but look at that. He might be 6.
Yeah, he's going downhill.
He's on the downside.
I guess.
I can't help it.
So
I'm
anyway,
such a child.
so yeah. So I guess this spot is a good.
That's a 3-year-old.
Yeah, 3-year-old.
That is your definition of a 3-year-old. Rectangle body, no sway in the back. Neck comes down.
There's a sway there, but yeah.
He's got a hump there.
Yeah.
Got a growth.
Actually, I don't know if I got.
Grew a second tail.
Yep, you got it. So this spot is a good example for buck bedding, doe bedding, etc.
What the bucks do?
These bucks bedding together, bro.
In the buck bedding.
So yeah, so access is up here, access is down here. To this food plot. This one's kind of like an irregular L shape. So you have bedding that stacks up adjacent down here, bedding that stacks up adjacent over here. And this is basically the food kind of bends traffic around this way. There's a big pond over here that we access around.
Is that turnaround?
First trail. Yep. So, and again, this is a spot where you can't really hunt it with a west wind for the most part.
Hold on. Can we talk about the squirrel in the background watching this go down?
Yeah. The Hammy the squirrel over here.
There's Hammy. He's just chewing on his nuts while this is happening. He's like, yeah, these guys are out here every day.
Yep.
This is another day.
My kind of dudes.
He's rubbing his nuts together.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good laugh right there.
Yeah. Good, honest, clean fun.
I don't know if it's clean, but
yeah. That's a different pair of bucks. But I forget.
Are you sharing that now?
Forget why I had.
Oh, we're frozen again. No, we're not frozen.
No, we're not frozen. It's just the. So
I got buck chasing another buck.
Might be. I'm looking for the right one. This one right here. So, talking about having good secure cover. This is a good example of it right here. I want a new screen window right here. So this is, if anybody's watched and follow along with the show, this is Dono right here. Here's his droopy side. There he is. So this deer is coming up and around. I shot him very shortly after this, like at 3 o'clock. Shot him within an hour of this. This is probably 400 yards or so. This is at Greg's food plot, and I shot him on the edge of West Side food plot. So this was him, whether he was bedding in corn or, which is possible, bedding back away from the food, basically in the food, because it's not the green food source there in November. They're not hitting it as hard. And then transitioning through this band of cover, which he came out of, into that other edge of that field. So basically having those bands of cover between other fields can be dynamite spots too. But again, having that not pressured, slipping right in there. 62 degrees, middle of the afternoon. Just hanging out, coming into that plot to, I guess, smack coming out of bedding. Bo sent me a photo. Got it. Thanks, Bo.
I think that's Caitlyn.
That's Caitlyn Jenner, yeah.
Yeah, that's Caitlyn.
Yeah. Bo sent me a picture of Caitlyn Jenner that she sent to him.
Two frequent viewers agree that buck's name is Caitlyn.
Yeah. So, yeah. But I think we hit the buck bedding pretty good tonight. We're gonna have some more habitat talks coming up with stuff.
We'll have some videos. Want to have
Just Hunt guys come back on.
I got some projects I'm gonna start working on.
Gotta have the Just Hunt Club guys. We gotta get our
we'll have some videos up.
Our little 30-second teaser intro.
And
Wrap it
then
up.
possibly work into, even though our videoing this year was,
I killed one on video.
Jesse did, you did. Jesse's got multiple on video.
Mm-hmm.
I got one on video.
Yep.
So yeah, we'll put together a little YouTube
Sizzler.
plot.
Yep. So, all right, guys, we're coming up on hour 20, so we're running a little bit long tonight. We got talking about deer on deer. Sorry.
Send y'all back to work tomorrow with a big old smile on your face.
Yep. Take that screenshot, Bo, and put it up in your ground blind. So you sit
If
there.
it was my trail cam picture, that'd be the one on my screens,
Yeah.
my background.
Yeah, I'm already looking into next year for that guy. That's my dude. That's my guy.
Old Caitlin.
Yeah, good old Caitlin.
Old Caitlin.
All right, guys. So thank you all for tuning in to 100 Proof Whitetails. Hopefully, you guys had a very Merry Christmas and are looking forward to starting off this new year. We appreciate you starting off the new year with us here. And yeah, if you guys want to have any topics, feel free to drop them into us. We love talking about them real time, and we love the conversation back and forth with everybody. So till next time, Ben and Nate, and we'll see you here on 100 Proof Whitetails.
Sure.